Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Antiheroes Anonymous, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time joining us. I'm Ethan, and I'm the Dungeon Master for this 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons show. Going around the table, we have 4 lovely players who will now introduce themselves, starting with Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. I play Thaddeus, the Human Vengeance Paladin.
Hi, I'm Kay. I play Harmony, who is a tiefling wild magic sorcerer. That's it.
And I'm Melissa, and I play Mara, who is a human rogue pirate.
I'm Zach, and I play Hunter, who's a Warforged Fighter Ranger.
We stream on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time? Pacific time. This is going to be a good episode.
Specific time.
Then we post those episodes to YouTube the following Wednesday.
If we're lucky.
Yeah, barring difficulties we experienced last week, but that's the exception, not the rule. So we, throughout the show, use a variety of custom items as well as a custom wild magic table for our advanced level wild magic sorcerer. We also have music from BattleBards, TabletopAudio, and Compotech, as well as new character portraits on the info cards, which are in the top right, as well as on the starting soon screen, which you are probably just watching, and all over our Twitch and YouTube pages as well. And that is by Carrie Peach. Is that how you say her name? Okay. You can find her on Twitter. She's great. So if you're watching us on Twitch, you can check the channel page for links and info to pretty much everything I just mentioned. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can check the video description for similar information. Then, if you want to know what we're doing, what's going on with us, you can follow us on Twitter at Antiheroesanon. And other than that, we do hope you enjoy the show. We're going to get right into it, and if you do enjoy it, please come back, share with your friends. We'd be happy to see you again. So, brief recap before we get started. The party got a compass from Kamekame Island, which points them towards, supposedly, a place where they can enter into the Elderhaven Reaches, which is their ultimate destination to confront the eyes of the world who have been menacing them up to this point throughout the campaign. Mara and Harmony, on their last night on the island, investigated a ghost ship that somehow appeared up from under the waves and seemed to have some sort of connection to Mara's grandfather. Meanwhile, in the dream realm, Hunter was meeting with the ancient spirit of a great white tiger from the Elderhaven Reaches, and awoke to find that he had a spirit tiger companion of his own curled up next to him. So that was weird. Then, in the history that same night, Thaddeus learned a little bit more about the Vampire Alkene's potential schemes, and also a little bit of history about his goddess Esanahan and her sister, who has taken up the name the Raven Queen, though that was not her original name. The party then awakened the monk Kamiko from her centuries-long sleep. She had been guarding the sanctum on Kamekame Island, and yeah, they managed to awaken her from that sleep, and she was very bewildered, could only communicate with Hunter, and was very confused by what is going on and who these people are. They then teleported near to Redwater, which they discovered is a town that has come under some kind of blight from the vampire who is taking up residence in Ravenmoor. And then at the Temple of Melora, they were reunited with the High Priest of Melora, Phineas, as well as his sort of apprentice, the Asimar Eli, and then there was also a pixie named Mint, and a cleric of a sun god named Dawn.
It was also the princess.
It was also the princess.
That's probably the more important moniker.
The princess of the kingdom. And so they reunited with all those people. And when we left off, Thaddeus had just finished curing diseases for several of the people in this temple, since the temple had become kind of a makeshift hospital of sorts. And then,
We were all going to Eli's room.
yes, everyone was going to Eli's room to speak about what the group should do about this vampire. And so that's where we're going to pick up. Door, Eli kind of closes the door to the room behind you, and you can see that the room hasn't really changed since your last time here. It's just this very simple room with very plain bed sheets and just a simple sort of desk right by the bed as well. And you can see that it has Elisa's, Eli's mother's prayer book is open on the desk. But other than that, there's not really any decoration to this room at all. And Eli has to sort of bring in a couple chairs to make sure there's room for everyone to sit down somewhere. And then as he does so, he sort of closes the door behind you and says, all right, I guess it's time we talked about what we're going to do. And he kind of just looks, or he looks at Thaddeus as if he's waiting for Thaddeus to...
Well, Thaddeus is going to first use Divine Sense.
Okay. What does Divine Sense tell you again?
If there are any fiends, undead, or maybe it's just within 60 feet.
Yeah, I mean, from Harmony's direction, you feel a fiendish presence.
Wasn't he with
Mullen's
Gloriana?
with Gloriana.
Oh yeah, that's right. He went off with her for a little while. So you don't detect anything within 60 feet that is fiendish or undead in nature.
Okay. Alright. I learned last time that this is going to be harder than we thought. I had vision of Tanahan, where she told me what else he is up to and what he wants to bring.
And Dawn kind of stops you there and says, "Wait, who's Alki? What?"
Yeah, we should probably back up a little bit more. So a really long time ago, the area of Ravenmore used to be like a city thing, right?
Right.
We know
okay.
this, right? I'm not just
Yeah,
metagaming
you
here.
do know this. Yeah.
Wait, this is knowledge that Harvey knows.
Meta Melissa.
Minimal is it used to be run by snake people. And it was bad. And I don't know why that's relevant. But anyway, so you know the Shadowfell, right?
Sure, to some extent.
There's actually an entrance to the Shadowfell in Ravenmore. And Mandus was guarding it.
You met him. You, in fact.
Right, I remember Mandus.
Yeah.
He was the one who helped scout out where my parents were being held.
Yeah.
And you also probably worked with him when you were trying to
In
reconstruct
Ravenmore. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. She would remember it.
Yeah.
As well.
So yeah, his job was to guard it. I'm not really doing a good job of telling this story.
Maybe I can help. Mandus was the guardian of the Shadowfell while running the orphanage that you probably remember. And then when he helped us out in the capital, apparently something broke loose. And when he returned, he was captured by a vampire that resides in the Shadowfell.
Who apparently has a huge grudge against him for some reason.
And
Yeah, because he'd been captured before, right? Mandus? Yeah.
Yeah, Mandus had
in any case, that entity is Alkene, a vampire. So that is what Thaddeus is referencing from his dream.
And there's like a Medusa.
I didn't hear much about Medusa last night.
So this darkness that's spreading out from Ravenmore is a result of the that makes sense.
I think he brought his legion of undead into Ravenmore and took it over. We don't know what happened to Mandus, but he's
unreachable.
He's in captivity again.
Yeah, Eli speaks up and he says, "Yeah, as I mentioned to Harmony earlier, we have been occasionally, not every night, but for the past week or so, at night there have been occasional instances of undead wandering out of the forest, and we've had to fend them off. But as you've seen, there's been injuries, but not too many casualties so far. There's a lot of sickness going around because of festering wounds, but
It's probably because we're a distance from Ravenmore.
that would make sense. So I guess we could presume that things would probably get worse as we get closer. So what was this dream you had?
So you're translating all this for Comic-Con?
Yes. I'm paraphrasing probably, but not
Okay.
like
At some point when there's a break in the conversation, Kamiko kind of leans over to you and whispers in your ear in the language of the Elder Hidden Reaches. I'm curious. Why are all of these people so pale? Have they been cursed by a Yurei or some sort of other spirit?
We're on a different continent, so that's what the people here look like.
She kind of like sits back contemplatively and then just like nods a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyways, you were saying, and then she sort of goes
Yeah,
on for
I'll
the rest of the
continue with her.
translation.
Yeah.
So I want to ask Tony first. Dave isn't here right now, but does he have any? Does he know what you know? Is he able to read your mind?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Because it's very important you outline what I'm about to say.
He has a name, you know.
There is something of the Raven Queens in Redwater. It's her home city. And what it is could allow Alkid to ascend to godhood if he finds it.
To refresh your memory, Nick.
It's remembering. The
Yeah,
process.
there were fragments of her memories.
Yeah. I'm deliberately being
Okay. I was just making sure.
Huh. That sounds pretty serious.
So that's what Alpine is after? Makes sense. So how do we stop him from getting it?
We find it first.
Do we know what it is?
I
The
know,
witch's left hand.
I know what it is, but I don't know what form it takes. It's a memory. I don't know how you could look for it.
So I'm not thinking about
It is one of these chips, and I like point to the back.
maybe it's
You could roll an Arcana check, I suppose.
if I've heard any stories.
Yeah,
about
it's going to be it'll be a high difficulty, but
once you tell these, it's already on.
there's always a chance that Harmony can have one of those light bulb moments.
Do I use wild magic? No.
Oh gosh.
12.
12. Yeah, you don't know. You know that if you were to, because you've seen Thaddeus do it before, if you were to figure out maybe what form it would take, there are spells that can search for things, but you have no insight into what you would be looking for.
That's weird.
It is weird. I did.
Are you sure it wasn't just a dream? Because that sounds like something, that would be in a dream.
Alkid was there too.
I mean, Alpine
I've
also
never
showed
met
up. Nightmares are nightmares. Maybe it was just what you think Alpine looks like.
Dawn speaks up and says, if Thaddeus thinks that he met with his goddess in his dream, then I'm inclined to believe him.
Thank you.
The divine sometimes speak in that way. They can't interfere with us directly a lot of the times, but they can, especially under special circumstances, speak with us in dreams and things.
And I'll say I understand, and I'll like pet my tiger.
Anyway,
Yeah, Eli kind of like looks at your tiger and like registers it for the first time and kind of jumps a little bit. But,
Yeah.
Sana had made it very clear that we cannot allow Alkid to join the pantheon of the gods.
It's not like we're going to let it happen if we have a choice about it, but
But I'm just saying that for the sake.
so how do we even? This is Eli speaking. He says, so how do we even fight a vampire? This is I just don't know.
That was.
Where do we begin?
I was hoping Dawn would know something about that. I don't know that much. I mean, I guess I could roll a history check for my classes.
Yeah, you could roll a history check or an Arcana check or even a religion check. I would say could probably get you information.
Well, my religion's close to yours, so let's make that history.
You want all of us to roll?
he's
Yeah,
not.
you could roll. You might get different information, but
It's not really clear.
Okay, what are we rolling? Which kind of check?
history, religion, or Arcana would do it.
So I'd say 12 history check.
Okay.
I have a 21.
Okay. Thaddeus, you would remember you had classes where you talked about dealing with the undead and the different divine magics that are put for that. but there was nothing that you recall that specifically dealt with like what are a vampire's abilities or anything like that. Hunter, you recall from your time spent hunting in the Elderhaven Reaches that there are, you can think of several different types of vampires. And each one is a little bit different and has a little bit of different weaknesses.
I'm assuming I'm like consulting with Kameko in this too, seeing if she heard anything as well.
Yeah, so in the Elderhaven Reaches, you know that there are at least a couple different types of vampires. There are, and they sort of act in different ways. One of them that you can think of actually basically just like pulls the entrails out of a person's body and like flies around with just the like head of the creature attached to the entrails, and that's one type of vampire that's native to the Elderhaven Reaches. So you have a very different picture of what vampires look like than what these guys are probably thinking of.
Yeah, but then again, we also met Kay, right, who was a vampire.
That's true.
So,
Who probably didn't tell us a lot about how to kill.
No,
No.
he certainly did.
but I'm thinking that kind of rounds off my perspective of what a vampire is in different places.
Just for the record, I'm not researching.
I did it for you.
Give me that.
Yeah.
I think what I would do is like I would remember some classes where we talked about that and ask on, did you study under so and so? Do you remember any of the classes?
I was never really the bookwormy type.
Yeah,
I think there were classes where we dealt with it, but never really, nothing clicks for me unless I do it practically, you know? And we never really had a class where we got to go actually toe-to-toe with a vampire.
which
That's
is
just,
probably for the best.
I mean, why not just kill them the same way we kill everything else?
Because the last few things we killed the same way we killed everything else didn't die.
What are you thinking about?
Thinking about Warren, I'm thinking
Rakshasa.
Rakshasa.
Rakshasa kind of died.
So banishment isn't an option to. You can't.
I can
banish
always
somebody
try,
specific.
but like, we don't know which plane is technically his home plane,
Right.
and if his home plane is actually here,
Banishing wouldn't be a bad idea.
then he'd come back
Right.
with it.
I mean, wouldn't he? But
It already, even if he's native to Shadowfell, it already seems like he has an easy way through.
If we banish him back from the Shadowfell, we're gonna have to figure a way to plug the hole.
Okay.
Or
Well,
seal
that could be a goal. That's possible.
I mean, we know that Mandus held him at bay for years.
Yeah, so maybe
That
we
may
need
be
to
our
figure out how to
if we
seal
can free
the.
Mandus, Mandus can tell him how to kill him.
maybe Mandus also has notes somewhere. We could also seek out his hideaway
Yeah.
in the mountains.
His cave.
And that might be on the way too.
Does anybody know how to read what is his language?
Draconic.
Draconic.
I can't.
I do.
Right?
I have 3 languages. Let me have this one.
Oh, sorry. I only 7. So.
He took the linguist.
I know, but like
Yeah.
this is like
That's
one of the
special shit
3
right
that I know.
there.
Let me
Yeah,
have
that's
this.
actually- Yeah, probably.
Shovel through.
Yeah.
Is there a library here?
In Redwater?
Yeah.
No. I mean, well, there is, but nothing that's gonna happen. I mean, we can look.
I mean,
But-
I just know lore about the Shadowfell in general, or
Ask you why I should have been asking that.
you would know.
Perhaps we should bring Phineas into this. He sometimes knows a little bit more about this sort of thing than I do.
Is he
Alright.
feeling up to it?
I mean, it looked like Sir Thaddeus managed to cure him to some extent. That was better than I've seen him looking in weeks. I'll go see if I can find him. And Eli kind of bustles out of the room.
I don't know, you guys. Maybe we just need to go and see
Unless-
what's happening and figure it out once we get there.
Do you still have that list of catalog books from Helia's library?
Somewhere.
Because I wonder if her library also has
Stuff.
citation.
You know, the problem with that is getting to Ferndale.
I can teleport us right in there,
Yeah,
but I can bring us back into the next day.
depends on how we want to spend our time, how critical it is, but if information gathering is our first step, then we want to take the best. I guess this would put confidence.
I will also add that when you left, it wasn't fully cataloged, but by now
But
it
it's
might
been
be.
at least 2 weeks, if not more.
It's been about 3 or 4 weeks at this point. So
Assuming all those people are still alive.
Well, he came with us and then walked back.
One of the
to
guys
cabin.
came with us, but he had
The old guy.
He brought in more assistants.
So his name Guy.
his name was
His name was Guy.
Guy.
Yep.
So Guy went with Gavin and Mallory back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he had a bunch of assistants working on the categorization
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
And they, if they're still alive, presumably they'll still do that.
This was the way. Okay. Yeah.
So, number of options. The library, Mandus, and some notes.
Well, I can
Maybe
also
Father
try to
Amos.
talk to Mandus in the morning.
We already tried that, didn't
We tried scrying on him,
we? I see.
but we haven't tried actually speaking. Like,
I'm still against the idea of trying to send to Mandus.
well, but if we need to know how to kill a vampire.
If we need to know how to kill the vampire will know how to kill it. If Mandus is a for one, then the vampire knows exactly what to fortify himself against.
Yeah, I'm with Thaddeus on that one because he intercepted the scrying thing that we did, right? So
At this point, the door swings back open, and Eli shuffles in, followed by a sort of hunched Phineas. Now that you get sort of a good look at him walking, you can see that he has, even in just the short time that you guys have been away from this town, he seems to have aged significantly. Recent events have not been kind to him. And he sort of shuffles in and says, Eli tells me that you're looking for information about vampires?
Vampires, the undead, and the Shadowfell.
Specifically looking how to kill a vampire.
Well, I can't say I know much about the undead or about the Shadowfell in general, but I have heard in my years tales about vampires, but I don't know specifically how much is true and how much is myth and legend. They say that they're nearly impossible to kill. By the time you've cut into one, its wounds they're regenerating and it heals itself. And even if you do manage to bring them to the point of death, there's they can somehow escape using magic. And if they manage to escape, then their regenerative properties will kick in, and they come back at full force. But there are a number of weaknesses that I recall them having. I can't remember specifics.
Do we have a charge left of that? If we're going to send it to anybody, I would like to send it to my teacher in this class.
No, it was used this morning, so you'll have to wait till tomorrow on anything.
That's fine.
You looked like you were going to say something.
I was, but I'm trying not to metagame here, so.
So we can't, like, pull them apart or
I would love to try that.
When you say that, Dawn chimes in and says, well, that's a good point. I mean, no undead likes radiance, right?
I like radiance.
What do I recall from fighting the undead in the Shadowfell the first time? Do I
Um,
remember what was effective and what wasn't? That was a really long time ago in real time, so.
Yeah,
I mean, we
to
did
be
do a lot
honest,
of
don't
fighting.
recall what was effective and what wasn't out of the things that you guys had. A lot of you back then didn't have magical weapons, so sometimes those
Yeah. We didn't really fight that much, though. We kind of just ran.
We fought a little bit.
Fought, yeah, a couple of them. Mandus did
Like,
most
was
of
my
the
fire
fighting.
magic
Yeah,
effective?
it was mostly effective.
I'm traumatized after the turtle.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Uh,
Sorry, not sorry.
Dawn kind of puts her hand on the hilt of what you can see is a mace of pretty gorgeous make that she has at her belt, and she says, "This is a prized possession of my temple. This weapon does extra. It will produce radiant energies when it strikes the undead. It's possible that something like that might have more effect against a vampire."
Heal on my sword also expected fully force.
If it's radiance energy that we need, I might be able to whip something up with my magic too.
All I have is a silver weapon.
But is there something else that we can use that's along that same line? Something that we can give everybody for like her arrows or daggers that she can dip her daggers in, maybe?
I see you're metagaming. Phineas speaks up and says, "Well, yes, I could perhaps. I could create some holy oil, which
We still have
could
some
be
actually.
effective for that. Might have reached its expiration date. I don't know.
Does it expire?
No.
Great
If that
silver
would be
man.
helpful, I'd be more than happy to."
I feel like did we get holy oil from when we went to the Shadowfell the first time?
We never used it.
We never used it? I feel like we should probably have some.
I can
We
make
have
some
two.
I'm sure you can.
I think we still
We
have
need
two
the
of them.
oil at least, right?
Well,
Well,
I mean,
I can make holy water out of it.
is it water,
You might
aka
need
oil,
both.
or is it the same thing, or not?
They're different.
No, they're different.
Well, let me see what I wrote down.
Acid, I don't think would help.
I mean, acid's never a bad thing, but
I'm trying to think. Oil, holy oil, if I set it on fire, it would put my fire.
It's holy water is the one, I guess.
So it is holy water?
I think so.
Yeah, I have one quantity of holy water.
I think that is things have the same.
like if it's
So
holy
it
oil,
should
you
be
can
holy
dip
water.
your weapons into it and it'll stay on your weapons for a limited time. But like holy water, you'll have to just throw at them.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we're going into a place with a bunch of undead, holy water's kind of a given. And holy oil, maybe?
I could have sworn there was holy oil which you could put on your weapon.
Just add
There
flour.
it is. There it is. It's a thing.
No, I can't find it, but I'm sure it exists in there somewhere.
It is now.
Just add flour, make holy bread.
So yes, that's something that I could do.
Can you spare some people to come with us? We're gonna venture into Ravenmore and try to.
Well, the guards for the town are under the mayor's jurisdiction. You'd have to speak with him, but the temple is very lightly staffed. It's pretty much just Eli and myself. So he sort of looks to Eli and says, "I'm in no state to go gallivanting about the country and fighting a vampire, but if you're willing to go," and Eli sort of cuts him off mid-sentence and says, "I'll go. I will." And then he sort of looks at Thaddeus and he's like, "I can come, right?"
You can come, right?
I would be a fool to stop.
And you can see that he smiles a little bit, but then like quickly suppresses the emotion.
I feel like we would need all the help we can get, especially from people who are good with, the
Well,
gods and stuff.
The caveat, not all that would be good. I don't want to bring everyday working soldiers into this.
Okay, yeah.
Stand a chance.
Jesus.
Dawn speaks up and says, and of course I'm coming, but it does leave the question of who's going to stay in this town and keep it from being taken if the undead forces get worse at night.
Are the fey creatures helping at all?
What, the pixies?
Yeah, well,
No.
I wasn't sure.
Would Kanako want to stay here?
Kamiko kind of hears her name be mentioned and then sort of looks to Hunter.
I don't know how much help she needs against the undead. I mean, at least not the major unit that we might.
Between us, she's stronger than me.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Someone's strong.
So,
I don't know much about Aramel. Is he just like a priest or
Like is it a druid?
He is a druid. Yep. At the mention of Aramel, Dawn says to you, Mara, well, I think Aramel would be better served here, doing what he's doing.
Right.
He's
Keeping the Shadowfell at bay.
his meditation is, yes, keeping the Shadowfell influence
No,
from
that's what
creeping
I
into
meant.
the town.
That's what I meant. To stay, one of the people to help stay.
But he's not much use for fighting if he has to continually meditate to keep
That's
the
true. We
Shadowfell
still
at
need
bay.
to stay.
So
We need someone to stay to guard the place. What was the verdict on Kamiko?
I think she should come with us, but has the town been holding on okay thus far? I mean, if we strike
you
swiftly, then
you saw coming in here the number of injured and sick people
Sure.
as a
And
result
that's
of.
I didn't know how long they were under siege.
That's like with Eli and Dawn.
Sure. If we strike swiftly enough and cut off the source, there would be nothing to defend against, right?
Ideally, yes.
I don't think-
But,
I want to leave somebody behind.
yeah, Eli says, I agree with Thaddeus. I don't think I could leave this town if we don't leave someone of significant strength here to help defend it. If it comes down to it, I'll stay. I will. But I'd like to come help. I think I can.
So I would ask Kamiko, what sort of combat training do you have? What kind of fighter are you?
She reaches towards her belt and then for the first time discovers that
Her daggers are gone.
her daggers are missing. And she sort of looks around and she looks to you and says, you didn't happen to...
Point
Mara's
at
like,
Mara. Be like, Mara, could you brandish your daggers
no,
for us?
no. And I pull out, I have 2 daggers. I pull them out and I hold them out to her.
And she sort of like does a little bow and takes them. And then she says, quite skilled with a set of daggers. And I'm not too bad even unarmed.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know what we should do.
The daggers don't quite fit into her holsters. And so she like tucks them into the belt and
Oh, I got
unhooks
those.
the holsters and drops them on the ground.
I got them off of Mercer's ship. That's where I got those daggers.
Okay.
Off of the great worm or the golden worm or whatever it's called.
The bronze word.
The bronze worm, that was it.
Yeah, Samara, the hilts for Fujin and Raijin are just like sort of sitting on the ground right now. She's just dropped them because the daggers don't fit in there, so she's just put them into her belt.
Okay. You want me to sneaky and snatch them up.
Or the sheaths, rather.
Yeah.
I don't know. Should I run back to her and go bed?
You're gonna need it where you go.
No, they're yours now. You earned them.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but
Wait, so what's the actual plan though?
Well, first we get information, right?
Is that what we need first, information?
Let's head to Manus's cave. We'll look there. If nothing's there,
Do we know where Manus's cave is?
He gave us,
We've never been
what's
there.
there? What
He
was
gave
left
us-
there?
let's see, it wasn't much, I don't think.
Can you still see it through the dagger?
Looking through the dagger? Yeah, there was a book that was propped up in front that
But
had a
then-
note from
But
Manus
then
that
he said
said
it fell over.
it apparently like blew over in a breeze or something like that. So you can basically see from the vantage point of the dagger a open cave mouth that faces outward, and then you can see that there's heavy snowfall, and it's like a blizzard. It's being blown in the wind, and that's basically just directly outside the cave, and that's all you can see from the
So-
perspective.
So it's in a place that's snowing.
But decorating the cave, is there like, I remember you said that there wasn't much.
Just their way.
But is there like some notes or books or anything
Uh,
that you used
Not
for
that
the
you can
study?
see from this perspective.
Know that the other daggers there.
I think so.
Yeah, if you can see through the dagger into that location, maybe I'll tell them there.
But I used my teleporter spell.
Well, we have to do a lot tomorrow. But I think that the priority is Manus cave. If we can't find any notes on that particular thing, I can send to my mentor. If that doesn't get any results, then Manus, we have to find out.
Or we go to his study in Ravenmore,
Wait, so
which
why
is
do we
dangerous.
why do we need to go to the cave?
Because we Hunter thought that there might be notes Wasn't that it?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I don't think it's worth wasting a day just to go there.
so you'd rather go straight to Ravenloft?
If we want information, I'm all for having all the information that we can have.
But
But-
in Manus' cave, he has a special weapon.
Don't you think he would have taken that with
Yeah.
him
mm,
to help defend himself?
Or maybe he left it for us. Maybe there's other things.
He was fully intending to come back to the cave. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left a note that said he was coming back. Right? He didn't expect to go back to Ravenmore and
well, I'm just wondering why that cave is important to him.
it's
And why
his
it's-
hideout.
Right, but I mean, the dragons have, horns and they keep things. So maybe he
At
has.
the mention of dragons, Phineas's eyebrows kind of go up and he says, we've clearly gone beyond anything that I can do to help, so I'm just going to go start working on that holy oil. And he leaves the room.
Oh, and as far as the belt goes, I think, would you barter with Kumko for me?
About the belt.
Yeah, I'll trade her my circuit bracelet for the belt. Would you ask her for me?
Sure, I can do that after we're done talking.
Okay.
Look, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I think we should just go, be careful, be quiet, see what's happening, see if we can find some people that aren't undead to get some information from, and try to make our way back to where the First Light Orphanage is and where the doorway is.
Could we not describe that area?
We can't talk to anybody if we scrying.
Do we need to talk to anybody?
If we need information, yeah.
I mean, it's overrun right now, right? Who's there to talk to?
I could also teleport us into Oren's old tower. Maybe Oren had some information about vampires.
He had a different agenda.
He did, but I mean, you never know. I feel like there were a lot of
No,
books.
she's right. It makes some sense. If Warren wanted to control the world, he might have been keeping tabs on other dire threats.
Maybe.
I mean, and maybe they wanted to know about the UMT too.
Do we have any leads on where those artifacts are, or whatever we need to look for?
No, I prepared a spell when I woke up, knowing that I would need to find something. I don't know if it will work.
So yeah, I guess going straight there would serve two purposes. One is that we can scout for information, and the other is that we can actually start looking for these
We
artifacts.
can try to find the temple
So
to the Raven. Is there a temple to the Raven Queen in this town? Or is it just this temple of Melora?
No, this is the only temple in town. Redwater's pretty much always been devoted to Melora since she blessed the area around with her
Right.
But
natural
there's presumably
blessings.
one Raven.
Right, I would assume so. So we can find the temple to the Raven Queen in
Which would be
Ravenloft.
a great place to start with my step on.
yeah, I mean, we're
I just think we
there.
should go because it's the only place we're gonna get information.
I agree.
Dawn
Yeah.
kind of cracks her knuckles and says, "Yeah, I didn't think sitting around and talking was going to get much done, anyways."
So
So
in the morning, you can teleport us?
I can teleport us in the morning tomorrow. But then
How many people?
but that's my strongest spell for the day.
How many people can you teleport? How many players?
9, counting yourself.
So just a head count real quick.
We've replaced Kaneko with Eli. I think that's fine.
Can I use Know Your Enemy on Eli and see what his level is compared to ours?
yeah, he's lower level than you are.
You'd have to do this your mount.
But no, we replaced Moloch with Dawn.
Was Moloch counted before?
He was counted.
Okay,
For
Mara's rat was not
right.
because it's
1,
so
2,
small. But
3, 4, 5, 6, and then your tiger is 7.
yeah, I prefer to stay or to be alongside Kamiko for the time being because she doesn't have any way to communicate with anybody else.
How is she gonna
She
learn
needs-
common if you don't give her a chance
I
to
know,
learn
well,
common?
maybe I can teach her, but other than that, I mean, just
Somebody here.
Someone's
Sure.
gotta stay behind.
I've
sure.
heard my name several times.
If somebody, if zombies attack, someone all has to do is tug to her sleeve and point in their direction.
That's true. And you said it yourself, she's a lot stronger than you are.
And
So it's
Eli,
better.
and, I mean,
Exactly,
the
so
first-
let her stay here by herself. If any of us are gonna survive by ourselves, it'll be her.
Well, I would ask. I'll ask Kamiko for her opinion about the matter. Just kind of suggested the way that they are.
If you will be coming back here when you're done with whatever your mission is, then I'm happy to stay. I need to accompany you back to the Reaches.
Right. Okay.
But other than that, I have no preference. If this town needs defending from some spirits, then I will gladly defend it.
Okay.
They're very stinky spirits.
Alright.
So in the morning we'll be off.
I can also talk to the pixies and the fairy dragons too and get them to help. I don't know how much help they'll be. They might be good for a distraction. Because right now it looks like they're just trying to avoid the problem instead of helping solve it.
Yeah, they really haven't done much since they came to town, except for, well, I mean, some of the kids seem to like them, which is a boon in and of itself, but Eli kind of shrugs.
Yeah, I can talk to Nick before we leave. So we'll leave in the morning. I'll teleport us to the tower.
All right, what should we be doing in the meantime?
We need to get that holy oil and holy
Right.
water and any other supplies you might think we need. Rations.
Don, do you know the ceremony still?
Let me check Dawn's sheet.
Load up on.
Yeah, I do. In fact, I have that prepared. Is that the spell that is used to make
Yes.
holy water?
I'll help you.
So it is.
So Don and I will meet with
Nothing. I'm not saying
Okay.
anything. Is there like a shop in town where we can get
Well, yeah, there are plenty of shops in town.
I
What
don't
do you
know,
need?
like weapons or something? For like I guess we're good. I mean you don't need any weapons. You got your hands
Could take comic book shopping, I guess.
get her some fancy stuff.
that.
Kamiko is kind of like testing the balance of the daggers you gave her,
Yeah.
and
See
she
if we
seems
can get her
she seems
something better.
satisfied with them. So
Okay. Or if she's missing anything else. I'll give her some money too, but I don't know if they need money. Just these dire straits either.
Why
But
don't you want to hold?
why don't they have holes? That's a good
go-
question.
Maybe try to buy it, see what kind of potions they have in town.
Yeah.
See if there's anything useful. If there's like a magic item shop or something.
Sure.
Ethan pulls out his notes on Redwater.
Shopping episode! It's been so long!
Oh my god, it's been a long time. Who shopped?
It's been so long.
Okay, so who's doing what? While I pull on my notes.
Well, I'm gonna have Phineas be her handler while we're gone, I guess.
Okay.
And
You're
then
not gonna take her weapon
take her
shop?
shopping to make sure she has everything. That's on it.
Okay, I'm gonna go shop
For now.
for magic items and or potions.
You can go with us, huh? Knows everything.
I'm gonna stay here and with my carpenter's tools, I'm gonna make a little house for Pinky.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And I'm going to be making holy water.
Okay.
With Don.
Dawn goes off with you to sort of a corner of the temple near to Aramil where he's meditating and just begins to pull out vials to fill with water. She pulls out about 4 and fills them with water and then stoppers them and sort of looks to you and says, "Do you have vials? Do we need to go find some for you to fill?"
Oh, can I have retroactively given you all my empty bottles?
Oh, yeah,
sure.
It's like 6.
Okay.
6 empty bottles.
I've
I'm just like
many first
taking them
bottles.
all out.
Lots, but okay.
Well, how many do you need?
4 is fine.
4? Okay, 4 empty bottles.
And I also need, that's how it is when we make stuff, we just spend it from the party fund.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna make 4 bottles of holy water, mark off 100 gold.
Yeah.
Mark up 100 golden pitches.
Luckily, you don't have to pay for Dawn's though because she has money.
She better.
She does. Princess of Farendale, she's got money.
Princess.
What is the component that it costs?
It is 25 gold. No, yeah, 25 gold worth of powdered silver, which is spell consumes.
Okay. So yeah, she
And it takes an hour to cast every time.
she has to go purchase some silver elsewhere in the town, and I don't know if you were just carrying
I'll
around
go
silver,
with it, because I don't think I have it.
but
I think I just like asked for some money from the already done.
You need silver?
No, I need gold.
Oh, gold?
gold to buy silver. It makes sense. So the two of you go off and purchase enough silver to be able to cast this ritual several times, and then maybe settle down by one of the statues of Melora, where you can sort of perform the ritual in peace because there's no one else around. Harmony, as you search about the town, you find that a lot of the shops aren't really open. A lot of them seem to have just closed their doors for the time being while the town is in crisis.
Can I look in the windows of the closed shops and see what's inside?
Yeah, a lot of the, like all of the food shops and things like that seem to be up and running out of necessity, though some of them seem to be a bit low on food because the outlying farms have stopped sending things in. You also do find like an archery shop, which I believe Hunter has visited before, to get feathers for his arrows.
Speaking of which, I need more.
But there's no magic item shops per se. You do find a little apothecary that might have some potions of some types, but not necessarily everything. So, what specifically are you looking for in terms of potions?
I don't know. I just kind of wanted to know what was available and if there was anything that would be useful.
Well, the woman running the shop is a little old lady, and she's got a big fluffy white cat that sits on the counter and is kind of asleep. And when you come in and the little bell kind of rings a little bit.
Does my big fluffy white cat also greet the other cat?
Oh, are you with her?
I figured
We were all sort of shopping
Yeah,
together.
when you come in with the tiger, the fluffy cat on the counter kind of looks at her and goes, "Meow," and just like dives behind the counter. And the woman looks to the group of you and says, "Oh, now you've gone and done it, and you've scared my precious fluff ball," which is the name I came up with on the spot. What can I do for you? And also, if I could ask for your pet to stay outside the shop if possible.
And then I'll leave it outside. Just
You can just, go wait for me outside if you want. It's fun.
sure, waits outside.
Okay.
Off with comic go.
My pets are outside now. So I'll walk up to the counter.
And I message Harmony.
So, what can this old lady do for you?
Sorry about that. I was just wondering, being a potion brewer myself, what kind of things you had in stock?
Oh, we have a number of herbal remedies, a variety of things, and she produces a couple bottles, and you can see that one or two of them have that kind of pinkish liquid you would recognize from a potion of healing. But another one is kind of a purplish liquid that you don't really recognize. And then there is, what else might she have? I'm just looking through the list of potions now. There is one that is kind of an orangish color, maybe, that you don't really recognize, but she says, in the way of potions, this is about all I have. I really tend to deal mostly with herbal remedies and such.
Oh, it's very interesting. Can you tell me what this one is and I pick up the purple one?
Yes, this one in particular is excellent for removing exhaustion that is caused from daily labor and things like that. It is also effective against diseases and poisons, and it is known to instill extra vigor in those who are weary.
Oh, interesting. How much?
Oh, I apologize. That one is a crimson liquid
So it's crimson.
that seems to almost pulse with a dull light.
How much?
Oh, this one is going to be expensive. The ingredients that went into this one, you can't really find anywhere else, and I had to go to great lengths to procure them. I'm going to have to sell this one for nothing less than 300 gold, I'm afraid.
I look at it.
For your game knowledge, this is a potion of vitality, which will remove any exhaustion, cure any disease or poison, and for the next 24 hours, you regain the maximum number of hit points for any hit dice that you spend.
Look at it. I'll set it down and pick up the orange one. What's this?
This one is sort of a curious one. I'm not actually 100% sure what effect this will produce when it is imbibed. Or imbibed is the word I was looking for. Yeah, the old lady kind of like stumbles over the word. And she's like, imbibed?
I love that though.
Imbibed?
Yep.
Imbibbled? I'm not sure what effect this will have when it is imbibbled.
Imbibbled? Potion of imbibbling.
A lot of herbs involved in rapid growth went into this. It's anyone's guess.
I like uncork it.
You uncork it and it has a very, as you uncork it, you can see like magical sparks fly out of it, indicating that it is very clearly enchanted with magical properties of some kind, but it's a little bit unclear. And then you can see also at the very top, there's almost like a little bead of jelly or something that kind of expands and contracts and then goes back down under the liquid and you lose sight of it.
That looks like it would give you a stomachache.
Perhaps that's what it would do, but it does seem to have some sort of effect. To be honest, I bought this one off of a trader that passed through here, and I'm not entirely sure what it does.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm gonna set it down. I'm gonna say, look, I'm a little short on the gold bits yours, per se. But I do have these, and I have 3 gems.
Okay.
There's a black one, and a blue one, and a red one. And I'm gonna set them down, and I'll be like, these are extremely rare. I'm sure they're worth 200 gold each.
How much are they actually worth?
I don't have it written down.
Why?
But it doesn't matter.
When did you get that?
They're from Porgu.
Cargo?
Cargo?
Okay.
I have it written down.
We'll say they're each worth 50.
These are worth at least 200 gold each. They're very, very rare. I got them off of, should I make a deception check?
Yes, yeah, please do make a deception check.
Okay.
I've rolled an insight check, so.
I got them off of a trader.
You can see her eyebrow beginning to
What's
raise.
the name of the sea that we were on?
The coral
The
sea.
Coral Sea. I traveled the Coral Sea and I got them off of a trader.
Oh.
23.
23. Okay, yeah. Her eyebrows raise and she looks at the gems and she looks back at you and she looks at the gems and says, okay. All right. I will accept each one of these at a value of 100 gold pieces each.
Okay. And then I take the potion of vitality.
Mm-hmm.
She said that was worth 300, right?
Yep.
And I'll say, and I'll take this. And I think we're even.
And no interest in any of these, the other two, the healing potions or the,
Oh, well, those are
and she
so
holds
easy.
up the orange one.
Are they, do they look like the same kinds I grew?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, those are, I did say I'm kind of a brewer myself, and those are quite easy for me to
And she kind of
make.
sighs. I've had these ones in stock for so long. Nobody ever wants to buy them.
Well, I did say I'm a little bit short on cash.
Like, I can't very well give them away for free.
Let's see what else do
I paid good money for the ingredients.
Yeah, the stuff I have is way too expensive. Oh, I do have 3 large gems worth 25 gold. So I'll be like, okay, and I'll get into my bag, I'll take out one of those, and I'll be like, this one is worth at least 50.
Another deception check.
This one was good before. Times of chaos. The exact same thing. 10.
10. She kind of raises her eyebrows and she pulls out a tray from under the counter that is filled with gems of similar size and color, and she says, "That's funny because these ones tend to value around 25."
Is that right? Man, somebody lied to me. Okay, well, pleasure doing business with you, and I take the vitality potion and I leave.
Okay.
Okay, well, I tried.
She puts the cat back on the counter.
I don't feel sorry for her.
Yeah, so you can add a potion of vitality.
So I'm have to get rid of those gems now. I don't have them anymore. Harmony does not deal with
So that's Thaddeus is working on his ritual. Harmony
Yeah.
has gone.
I want to talk to Dom too while we're doing
Sure. Dawn seems to take a little bit more focus to complete this ritual. Like anytime you try to start talking to her, her focus kind of slips from the ritual over to you.
it. Yeah, I'll wait in between casting this spell.
Yeah.
Because I imagine it takes a lot of focus for that.
Yeah,
Especially
I
since
think
she's not better.
Thaddeus is a little bit better at multitasking than Dawn is. And so at first maybe you're talking a little bit at the start of the ritual and she's just having a lot of trouble focusing and she finally says, look, I mean, let's talk in between rituals. I really need to focus and
Of course,
I'm
it's
not,
very important.
it's not one of my strong suits.
So that shuts up. and
Okay.
Focuses on it.
But then an hour passes, you both complete one vial, sort of set that aside, and she wipes a little bit of sweat from her forehead, ties her hair back a little bit, and sort of looks to you and says, "What was it we were talking about earlier?"
I was asking if you do this often.
Sorry, what?
I was asking if you do this often, if you're practicing this ritual.
Yeah, sure, all the time. I practice, yeah,
Deception.
No deception. Yeah, you can see that she's kind of averting her eyes as she's saying this, and she just is trying to put it off as if she does practice a lot of this sort of ritual, but you can tell that this spell doesn't get a lot of use from her. I mean, it's just, of course, any cleric of Paylor that's worth their salt would just, right, every day, making holy water.
Practice makes perfect. Shall we do another one?
Yeah, sure. And notably, you are finishing like slightly ahead of her, and it takes her a little bit more time. This is a side of religion that she is not very good at.
Can I ask? No, I guess it's metagame. Like, I will say straight up, that is a 0 in religion. It's Dawn also.
A +0.
She does also have a +0.
That's so funny.
Two fakers, faking up some oil.
Yeah.
Snake, what else?
This is gonna be so about what time do we get back?
You, from your shopping, it probably only took maybe 2 hours to walk around town, find
And
this
they're
little
still
hole
over
in the wall
there
shop.
making the holy oil?
Yeah, it's gonna take them like 4 hours.
Kamiko use anything?
No, she seems
What's it
content
was?
with her daggers. She kind of, as soon as you step out of the temple, finds a clear space and begins to sort of practice a few
Yeah.
motions
I
with
offered
them.
like short bow that we found or anything like that too.
Yeah, she'll take the short bow.
Okay.
But she kind of like goes through like martial arts motions with the daggers, practicing different forms.
I'll ask her if she needs like a practice partner or something. Because she's been frozen for so long. She's stiff.
She says, "No, actually, surprisingly, I feel as if I had only been asleep for a night. For the most part, other than the jarring sense of being in this completely foreign land."
Right.
And she sort of looks around at all of the buildings and everything, which are just completely different from Elderhaven Reach's architecture.
So when she's done, I want her to come with me back into the temple. I want to find Phineas.
Okay, yeah, he's easy enough to find. He himself is also in his room working on a ritual to create a few vials of holy water as well, since that was the last thing he heard was that he was going to be working on that. So you find him there in his chambers.
I'll like gently knock on the door.
Yes, come in.
Do you have a few moments?
Yes, of course. What can I do to help you?
Okay. I don't know if you were there for the decision, but we decided that Eli was going to come with us. We were going to leave, and I motioned to Kameko. I'm going to leave Kameko here to help your town.
Of course. And he goes to extend a hand to Kameko.
And
And she just kind of like raises him.
I'll tell her that by shaking it, that's how you greet people in this.
And she kind of looks at him and gives a low bow.
Okay. Shrug. But
And he slowly retracts his hand.
as you can see, there's going to be some barriers. So I wanted to talk with both of you and write down some common, I guess, some translated information I can provide before we leave.
Okay, so you're going to just
So-
spend some time creating, like, teaching
This is how you say
Kameko
this,
a
this is how
couple
you-
basic phrases. Okay.
Yeah, basic phrases for both of them, or I guess just for Kameko, and then ask Phineas what kind of things he would need her to do, or how to instruct her, or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to tell Phineas, be like, we're going to be back, you need to keep her safe. I'm counting on you.
Well, of course, I'll do everything I can. He sort of looks at his self and he says, "There's not much that is within my power to do these days, I find. But
Well, I'm entrusting her to you, so
and he sort of nods solemnly. I have a feeling that it'll be more her protecting me, but of course, whatever I can do.
Right.
Any service I can be. And Kameko has she's pretty quickly learned the phrases that you've taught her.
Right.
For someone who's probably never learned a foreign language, she picks it up pretty quickly. Do you have any specific phrases you want to teach her?
no, I felt like I would just work with Phineas, and then since he knows the town and the people and what's going on, he can help me write down some phrases and things that they would need to know.
Okay.
Because it's
takes you-
familiar for hunters as well that have to do this, so
It probably takes you a couple hours of all.
yeah, I
working
figured
together,
I felt it would take it.
but,
portion of the
eventually, you do get that sort of thing worked out, and she's got a few phrases that Phineas knows that he can use with her.
Put them on flashcards.
And then Mara, you successfully, without issue, managed to make a little house for your rat. Where do you want to place it?
I want to bring it to Harmony when she gets back and see if there's any kind of magical spell you can put on it to make it small to fit in my pocket.
Oh, there are spells like that, but I can't. I don't know how to do that with my magic.
You think Eli would?
I don't know. Maybe he's been learning lots of new magic lately.
Eli!
What? Yes? Hello? Eli kind of comes from the other room. Well, that's a lovely birdhouse.
Okay. Can you make it so that it's small, fits in my pocket? And then when I take it out, it gets this size again?
You know, he kind of looks at Harmony, like, eyes pleading.
You know, Mara, that sounds like a simple thing, but it's actually very, very complicated. I know, but like, look, like that tower that we have that goes down, that was made by a really strong, powerful, very smart wizard. Our magic is more something that we were born with. We didn't have to learn it from books. So
Right.
it's,
Puts it under my hat.
sorry.
I've tried learning magic from books and prayers.
It's hard, right?
It just
So
it
hard.
doesn't come naturally.
I know.
Not for me, anyways.
Hey,
It works for Phineas.
I know what'll cheer you up. Eli, do you have a couple of glasses?
Sure. Like drinking glasses.
Yeah. I mean, Thaddeus is working so hard, and I just thought that, and I bought him this really nice drink, and I pull out a bottle that I have in my bag,
Uh-huh.
and I just thought that I'd let him have this, and I've been saving it for a special.
All right. Sure. Yeah. I think that Thaddeus would love that. And,
Right? I'm such a good friend.
Eli goes and grabs a couple glasses from the
What they
temple
drinking?
kitchen.
So I have a fancy bottle of alcohol in my bag, and I'm going to pour that into both of them, and then I'm going to take out my filter of love, and I'm going to pour it into both of them.
both of the glasses and put it away. And I'll be like, I'll be right back. I'm
Okay.
gonna go down.
So make a sleight of hand check to make sure that Eli doesn't see this, just to be safe.
Also, I wanted to dip into Eli's room and grab the belt that she
Oh yeah,
discarded,
it's just still on the floor.
and then just tell her I'm gonna hold on to this.
Sure. I have no use for it. It
I
doesn't
can
fit these
talk my way
daggers.
out of anything though, even if this was.
The daggers that I did have were quite special to me. They must be back on the island somewhere. Perhaps when we go back there, I can search a little bit.
Perhaps we'll find them soon.
I've been itching for this.
And then I also wanted to talk to her, but I'll let you do this.
Hijacking my scene, man.
Well, you were rolling, so I wanted to.
18.
18 on your sleight of hand check.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Eli, perception. Natural 1.
You have no idea.
Well, and I'm probably like, and this is just a little bit of extra flavor. I'll make the color nice too.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
alright.
Probably still sweating about doing Spanish
Sir
spell.
Thaddeus is quite used to, I'm sure. Hi.
He knows that I like to make things taste flavorful.
But I
Right,
go
okay.
downstairs. Come on, Laura.
I'm sorry. I need the hijinks music back.
Come on, bring my music back.
Oh, God.
I'm having a lot of trouble with music management today. Just up
Can I
and
see the
down.
card? I wanna.
I've been waiting for a chance to use this for so
Oh,
long.
boy.
Alright, so then I go down to Thaddeus and Dawn,
Yeah, you find them
and
at
I wait
the,
for them to kind of finish their, like,
You find them at the western statue of Melora, kind of. There's that statue of like the upper half of a woman's body, and she's kind of got her hands outstretched. And the hands outstretched area is where Eli prayed before
Right.
to earn his wings, and that's sort of where you find them, since this area of the town is really quiet. And they're just finishing up maybe their third of the vials of holy water that they're
I
creating.
walk up and I'm like, hey guys, wow, I'm just so happy you're working so hard. So I brought you a little bit of my fancy alcohol.
Oh.
Here.
and I give one to Dawn.
Oh yeah, bottoms up.
And then
She
I
just
take out
downs
this
it.
fancy bottle of alcohol and I take a swig.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Sure.
She downs it.
Do you just like bolt after that?
No, I want to see what happens.
Oh, it's the next person to look at.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's why I was
I don't-
gonna ask. I need to know who all is present for this.
Oh, well, I think it's just us. I'm like, all right, well, bye. And then we walk off.
Yeah.
But then we like hide around the corner to watch. I'm like, Mara, come on.
I don't know how to like justify a role for who sees who first, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to work out. For the sake of simplicity, let's just say that Harmony gets out of there before you.
Yeah,
finish.
maybe because I would know that. I would be like,
Did you just like set him down?
I set him down in front of you because I'm not sure if you're ready for it. I'm like, okay, bye. And then we like go around the corner and just watch. We're like hiding.
Oh, God.
It's a serpent into.
Oh, Cheers.
Ooh, no, I make us invisible.
Okay, roll
No,
on wild
wait,
magic.
oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I don't do that.
Yeah, you can feel the little bubbling of wild
I'm like,
magic.
ooh, that's a bad idea. No, let's just we should just go down the stairs.
Cheers. One more to go.
One more.
She downs it,
You little.
and then her
And
eyes
then
kind
I
of.
turn back to my work.
And I'm like drinking the fancy alcohol with Mara. Here you go.
You notice very quickly as you're starting to get back to your work that Dawn has just kind of sat down next to you and is just kind of sort of staring at you, empty, with kind of a distant gaze as you're starting to work on your fourth vial.
Do you need help with your work?
Yeah, you could say I could use a little bit of help.
Oh, yes. Let me come help you.
And she sort of scoots over a little bit.
That is like scooches over next to her.
Oh, God.
And then she kind of, when you'd expect the work to sort of get started again, she just sort of, you guys are making this so difficult. She doesn't turn her eyes back to her work. They're just kind of fixated constantly on you. And she says, I've never really noticed how tall you are.
She leans in close. What do you say?
She puts her hand on your lip.
Do you let
Is it welcome? Do you let her? Actually, no, she does.
Guys, this is. You know, I thought about you quite a lot ever since, and I always wondered, were you safe? Did you make it out? Did you take everything? And it got me at night sometimes. And I'm very glad to see that you're all right.
If I'm honest, I thought of you guys a lot too.
You and your parents, of course.
Of course, right, of course. And you can see that she blushes when you add that on there. She says, I thought of you and your friends as well. We didn't know if we heard that Oren was still alive, and so we assumed we didn't think we'd see you again.
Yes. Well, as I said, we had our victories have not been unalloyed ones lately, and so I've been feeling downcast after enemy cropped back up. But seeing you safe and sound before this mission really lifts my spirits.
And mine too. I have to confess something. You know that I'm engaged to your brother,
Yes.
of course, but
But are you?
well, I am, but
But wasn't that an imposter? That was all Oren's work, wasn't it?
I spoke with my parents, and it turns out that was something that they did arrange. But I have to confess to you, in this moment, I can't seem to think of him. She stutters and sort of
Let's
trails
in that
off,
case, let's not speak anymore.
and the scene fades to black.
The next morning you have 6 bottles of oil left.
And if Eli asked me how they liked the drink, I would be like, they loved it.
Yeah, how long does this potion last?
An hour.
An hour.
An hour? Yeah, so basically an hour of sort of lovey-dovey conversation passes, where no vials of holy water are made whatsoever.
Some distractions happen. It's funny. Oh god.
It was about the end of the hour. I'm like, okay, let's go back, come on. We gotta leave. Mission accomplished. We're like a little drunk because we finished the
But yeah,
alcohol.
at the very end of the hour, you feel the effect kind of leave your brain, and any feelings you may have had before are still there, but you can see that Dawn she had sort of calmed down from that flustered state, and sort of you slipped into a more natural state of being where you were just comfortable and happy being together. But as the hour sort of comes to a close, she starts to get a little bit more uncomfortable with how close you're sitting and things like that, and she
We should really return to our work, I think. We were
yeah.
supposed to make 8, we've only made 6.
I'm not sure what came over me. You're right. We need to get back to work. And she sort of just sort of turns the other way and like sits down with her back to you and begins to prepare the next ritual. Mission accomplished.
You should do something else.
I'm gonna go up to Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you know that tiara that I enchanted for you?
Oh yeah, I haven't had a chance to use that yet.
Yeah, can I see it?
Sure.
I'm gonna put it on and try to use it. See what happens.
Oh, you're putting it on Hunter?
On me.
Oh, on you?
Oh.
Unless you want to wear it.
Well, as far as I knew, it was just the.
Yeah, he doesn't know that there's anything wrong with it. And I'm just like, I should probably make sure it does what I want it to do. And I'm like, hey, can I borrow that for a second? It's for the tiger. No. I just want to make sure that, the magic is still there since you haven't used it in a while. I take it
Okay.
outside.
Mhm.
I put it on.
Yeah, you place it on your head, and you don't feel any noticeable effect.
No effect at all.
Yeah, there's nothing that really strikes you as out of the ordinary when you put it on your head.
Until she looks in the mirror.
Is that weird in itself that nothing happens?
Yeah, almost, because you know that it was successfully enchanted with some magic.
I mean, if I try to trigger it, does it work? Like trying to use it?
Using, like, sending mental focus into it doesn't seem to do anything.
I'm gonna take that. And like focus on it for a second and see if I can feel if there's any magic still in it.
Yeah, it seems to be pulsing with faint arcane power.
I cast detect magic.
It radiates with a transmutation magic. A weak one, but still.
Transmutation. So it's not illusion like I wanted it to be. I'm gonna bring it back to Hunter, put it on his head.
Yeah. A effect that was sort of imperceptible to you when it was on yourself takes over Hunter's face as you watch as the bolted corners of his mouth begin to pull upward into a really weird smile. His face is stuck in a smile.
Oh my god, Mara, look at this!
There's just like a crunch of metal as his face is pulled.
Wait a minute, I gotta sketch this so we can go for later. Wait. You look gorgeous, man.
Oh man,
He
that's
like
so great.
covers up his face,
I didn't know he
takes
could
it
do
off,
that.
and like hands it to Harmony.
Is the enchantment still there, or is it?
Still there.
All right. Well, do you have something else you want me to put a disguise spell into?
When I take it off, does the face go back? Or
Yeah, it goes back to normal.
So it's a tiara of smiles.
Very funny.
I mean, I just, it's great. It's my finest achievement. Harmony, how's that?
That's so funny.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna go out into town and I'm gonna buy a hat.
Okay, yep, easy enough. You can do that for like 3 coppers.
3 coppers. All right.
If you just want any old
Oh.
hat.
Alright, thank you.
If you want like a gorgeous hat with fantastic plumage,
Oh,
it might be a little
yes.
more expensive. But
I want to find the most extravagant hat I can find.
all right, yeah, you find like this emerald green. Like you find a hat shop, and in the hat shop there's a lot of different hats. But there's this one that is like an emerald green, wide-brimmed hat that kind of comes to a point in the front, and then has a big white feather out the
That's
top,
it.
and it has a bright red gem that is holding the feather in place.
That's it.
Yep.
I'm buying it.
Okay, yeah, it's like 2 gold.
Cool. I'll pay for that happily.
I have one more thing I want to do.
And the bourgeois person at the desk says, "This feather is a genuine Pegasus feather."
That's incredible and amazing. Thank you. You've made my day.
Of course I have.
Okay, so 2 more things. Then you can have your thing.
And can we go to
I'm gonna cast, on the way back, I'm gonna cast invisibility on myself to get rid of the wild magic.
Okay.
Surge. Because I'm like, if I'm gonna be enchanting this shit, I don't want my wild magic to destroy you. So I make myself invisible. I get to roll twice. $42 or $30. Oh, no, we don't want that. Yeah, we'll do 30.
30? Okay. Yep, so as you turn invisible and begin walking through the streets, there's just suddenly a loud hiccuping sound as you realize you have an uncontrollable case of the hiccups. And so people walking through the town are mystified by the invisible hiccuping creature.
Amazing.
Okay, and then after that wears off, I'm gonna, when it's like bedtime, I'm gonna try and enchant the hat with disguise spell.
Okay, roll an Arcana check.
That one was good before.
Yeah, but then it would roll the 5, so we'll do X.
Wow.
That's a natural 20.
Oh, gosh.
Yep,
It's
Okay.
always so entertaining having a wild magic sorcerer.
that isn't a natural 20.
Yeah,
Because
never,
it's the
never
It's a
ends.
symbol.
It's a symbol.
Yeah, go ahead and count that as 2 successes as you spend a little bit of time this night as it starts to get dark surprisingly early in the evening. And so as the darkness is starting to come on, Harmony, you have a very fruitful session trying to enchant this hat.
A very accomplished day you had.
Yeah, really. Dawn and Thaddeus eventually wander back to join the group. What did you want?
Yes.
Was there something else
Oh,
you wanted to
sorry.
do?
So I want to talk to Kaneko again and ask her a question.
Sure.
And then to say, when you woke up, you referred to Mara as your mother.
Right. That was kind of a weird moment.
But you do have a weird resemblance too.
I was just a little surprised. I entered the meditative state that I was in because I was looking for my mother's spirit. And your friend, she just somehow reminded me of my mother. It's weird, I can't explain it.
Okay,
It was just a weird moment. Think nothing of it.
I see. Okay, I'm just curious. Other than that, and say, so we're leaving in the morning. Just to make sure we have everything, I'm gonna hand her like a pouch of 100 gold and say,
Just
just in
kind of
case you
like
need it.
takes out the
This
coins
is the
and like, looks
currency.
at them.
Yeah, this is the currency they use on this continent. So in case you need to buy anything, work with Phineas. Use the notes I gave you.
Right, and she sort of like pulls out a piece of paper which is written in Keen and then has sort of phonetic spelling for a couple other things. And she looks at it and she's like, right, I need to, I'll practice these every night.
Okay, I believe you will. You'll be fine. Other than that,
Did you give me the belt yet?
not yet. No, I do have it now.
Okay.
But other than that, I'll say, well, I'm gonna go fletch arrows before we go to bed. Is there anything else you need tonight?
Where am I to stay? Where are we to sleep?
That's a good question. Somewhere in here, I think.
She presents that question, and sort of Ethan begins to wonder for everyone, where are you guys staying for the night? What's your plan?
I assume we'd be in the temple if there's space for us. If not, we could go to the same place we were at last time.
We can go back to that inn. What's that? What's his name?
The Riverbed Landing?
Oh God, what's his name? The chef guy that was so happy.
Oh yeah.
The proprietors of the Riverbed Landing were Hilda and Rick.
Yes.
Rick!
We can go back there.
Good, I'll leave it up to you guys. Where do you want to go?
I'll go back to the inn.
Yeah, we can go there.
Okay, I guess we're staying in the inn.
I mean, for Thaddeus, it's been a while since he's done that.
Yeah. That's true.
Sure.
Dawn kind of sheepishly, as you're sort of reconvening to split apart, Dawn sort of looks at Thaddeus and says, I've got a room here at the temple, I'm just going to stay here. And sort of bustles off, and you guys can notice that she feels a little bit weird around Thaddeus.
I'll lean over to Thaddeus and be like, what was that about? Did you guys have a fight or something?
I wouldn't call it that. That is something.
I feel like I would pester you all the way back to the end, though. Come on, tell me, what happened? Was it this?
Rolling an insight check here.
Yep,
Was it this?
I think that's a fair
I think
point.
like after 5 or 6 questions, Thaddeus is like, what's going on here? Well, that.
Is
Wait.
this deception or
Deception.
perception?
Can you beat a 6?
18.
Yeah, I mean, Harmony's being weird, but she's always weird.
I'm always weird.
So,
She looked really pretty today, you know?
I know.
I mean, I almost fell in love with her when we saw her here. I was just so happy to see her.
when you say that, Eli's like, oh, I'm gonna go to bed.
No, this is the conversation back to the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Eli's already.
You didn't say my.
I would have imagined it would have been like, yeah, okay, I guess we're staying in the inn.
I'm grateful for the wine you gave us, but I think it may have been wrong time for you.
Well, I didn't tell you had to drink it right then. I just thought you might be thirsty. Also, it was a really good wine. I didn't want you to miss out.
You make your way over across town to the location of the Redwater, or the... I just had it, and I've lost it. The Riverbed Landing Inn. And when you walk on in, you're pleased to see that it is no more crowded than it ever was. You are the only patrons in the bar, and the woman behind the counter, who you recognize as Hilda, immediately sees Harmony and Thaddeus and Hunter and says, "Sir Thaddeus! Harmony! It's lovely to see you again. Shall I have Rick get to work working up some stew?"
No, I just need a room.
Of course.
Well, I'll take some stew.
And she hands you a key. Notably, she doesn't even ask you for money.
I'll say, is it okay if we have a couple more?
A couple
And
more.
Point to the.
What do we need, like 3?
As you can see,
4?
we're not exactly bustling with tourism these days. So yes, of course. I've even heard Eli came by earlier and told me that the group of you are going to help solve this problem for the town, and so whatever you need, however we can help.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And then she sort of turns back towards the kitchen and shouts,
Rick! Get making some soup! We've got customers! Rick!
and you hear like a pot fall from a shelf back there, and an
Ow! Nazir's ears are burning. He probably misses Rick.
but yeah, within not too long, Rick comes out with a pot of stew and serves it up to whoever wants it. Thaddeus, you can be upstairs if you want to be.
I'm eating stew. I'm eating stew.
It's pretty delicious.
I'll bring the comic go. She wants to do.
And Rick sits down with you for a while, and so does Hilda. And Hilda's chatting with all of you, but at some point in the meal, Hilda yells at Rick that he needs to go do his dishes or something like that. It's getting late.
Of course.
And so he goes off into the kitchen.
I'm like telling old grand stories about our adventures since leaving Redwater, but I'm like making them a lot bigger and grander than they actually were.
Yeah, and eventually the evening winds down actually pretty quick because, like I mentioned, it gets dark outside.
Right, and I have to
earlier
go do
than
my enchanting.
usual, and you've got things to do. Is anyone doing anything with the evening?
I wanted to work on. I think it was maybe the last. Well, I've already done a couple successes for the enchanting my sword. I guess not enchanting, but like working with the batteries. I guess combining it. So I wanted to work on that.
Okay, roll your dexterity tinkering tools check.
That's not super great. It was tinkering tools, which is proficiency plus dexterity. Is that what it was?
Yep.
So 14.
Okay. Yeah, this is a difficult thing you're trying to achieve. You've got the sword, so it's conducting the electricity.
Yeah. Last thing we had was like batteries larger size, disassembled and reconstructed.
Yeah, you've got the sword, so it's conducting electricity, and you've got the batteries built that you think you will be able to do what you're trying to accomplish. But with the time you have, you don't quite have the time to assemble it. So
Sure.
we'll say that you've pretty much, since you've put in a lot of time into this, you've pretty much got it ready. You just need another night to assemble it.
Okay.
Can I, when I'm done with my hat, scribe?
Sure. But I was just going to mention that while you are both up late working, I assume Mara has gone to sleep, and Thaddeus has kind of gone to sleep as well. While you two are up late working, you hear from somewhere outside the village just occasionally just howling wolves, and it must be loud, or it's carrying because of the acoustics of the valley that the town is situated in, or something like that. But they almost sound close, like as if they could be outside your windows. And at some point in the night, as you're working on your various projects, there's a loud gust of wind. Windstorm seems to have rolled into town, and it blows open the shutters, and they're kind of clattering. You have to kind of bring them shut again and close them. But all in all, it's a very, very eerie night. And eventually, the two, Hunter, you find yourself asleep after you've completed your work. Harmony, you have one more thing?
Yeah, I feel like after I finish enchanting for the night, and it's like, if it's like loud and stormy and eerie, probably not be able to sleep. And so I'll take out my scrying crystal, true crystal of whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Crucible of true seeing. I want to try and scry him more.
Oh, okay.
It's not hard to do.
What is the safety seat? 17?
Yes,
It's modified. Let me figure that out.
it's 17.
And it's a wisdom save?
Yes.
You focus in on the depths of the crystal ball, and your vision leaps into it as you're accustomed to. And it's then pulled back upward into the sky, and you kind of get a view of the land. You can see the dark night covering the world, the boughs of the forest kind of swaying in the wind. But then the vision is abruptly jerked away, and you sort of lose all sense of direction. And it focuses down again on a wooded area, and you're sort of sucked down into this, under the level of the canopy. And you see a single bedroll laid out underneath, sort of at the foot of a large pine tree of some sort. And in the bedroll you can see the sleeping form of your mother. And her horned head is kind of peeking out of the top of the bedroll, and she's kind of tossing and turning a little bit in her sleep. And as you sort of, the vision lets you explore around this area a little bit, you can see that she has a circle of sage herbs around her bedroll. Yeah, she's just kind of tossing and turning there, alone underneath this tree. Seemingly unaware of your eye on her.
Okay. All the way. Go to sleep.
And it's a fitful night, as there's just this windstorm buffeting the town from the outside. At some point in the night, Thaddeus, maybe you awake and you swear you could have heard a scream, like a high-pitched female scream from somewhere off in the town, but it could also be just a trick of the wind, and there's nothing more that follows it, so eventually sleep takes you again. And then eventually, morning finds you. And so did you just sort of like reconvene back in the lower
Yeah, I come downstairs and I'm a lot more subdued than I was yesterday. But not sad, just quiet.
Morning. Sleep badly Friday.
It was loud last night. I hope those weren't werewolves.
You guys have a friend who's like a werewolf?
He was a were-tiger, kind of.
I don't know.
So I guess he was an elf.
Hunter, actually, everyone except Harmony, make a perception check.
19.
14.
Sorry, I was just about to say something.
Oh, is it? You want the tiger to make one too?
No, the tiger doesn't have to. 20. So it is Mara and Thaddeus who notice almost immediately when Harmony comes downstairs.
Her nose is really long.
Yeah, her nose is really big. No, there's something different about Harmony's bearing at first. Is you think it's about her bearing, but then you look a little bit closer, and it strikes you that for the past, Mara, as long as you've known her, and maybe even Thaddeus as long as you've known her, Harmony hasn't cast a shadow. But as you're looking at her now, Harmony has a shadow, and it is disconcerting. Harmony's shadow looks like it belongs to a much larger creature. It seems to like billow back from her and splay across the walls.
We need concepts.
Okay, just give me a second to finish describing. And it has still the same fiendish qualities that you would expect from Harmony's shadow, except instead of ram's horns, it has almost like bull's horns. They just go straight up, right? And then it still has like a long whip-like tail, but also as she comes down the stairs and so is sort of stretching her arms, you watch as the shadow stretches big bat-like wings and then curls those back in. And as you cast your divine sense about the room, you don't sense any fiendish presence or undead presence.
He also gives me celestial. I don't think that's relevant here. I see it, but I think it's kind of tricky. So it's not.
I don't think the cameras can hear you guys.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to stage whisper.
Yeah.
it's not a game that I just checked. It's some kind of trick. I think it's a shadow film.
Okay. What are you guys whispering about?
Stay calm, but also move behind.
I know that trick.
Pull my finger.
I know that trick too!
No, seriously. Look.
I look.
Yeah, you turn around and at first you're not really sure what you're looking for, right? Make a perception check now, I guess, and we'll see.
Oh, it's not great. Oh, that's a 6.
Yeah, you're not sure what they're pointing. You think they pulled a trick on you again. They're trying to make you look or something.
What do you make of this, Summer?
Hmm?
What do you make of this?
I don't see
You can't
anything.
her own shadow.
What do you mean?
You can't see it.
Well, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah, it's not that it's
It gets worse.
to clarify. It's not that they don't see it. It's that they're not really
Yeah.
picking up that it's weird.
I don't think we know that though.
Would I recognize that I do have a shadow?
That's what you're not picking up on
Okay.
because you used to have one and it was something that you were used to having,
And then I got used to not having it.
and then it just isn't registering with you that it's weird that you have it back, basically.
When did she lose it?
It's a long time ago.
I think it was back in the Hag Hut arc.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would do it.
I didn't feel like I mentioned that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
alright, well, you guys are acting weird. Maybe it was a storm last night or whatever, but I think we need to probably get going. Should we go back to the temple?
Let's meet up with the rest.
Yeah, probably.
We'll have some
do you have
breakfast.
your rooms?
Yes.
Yeah, bro.
But what if we need to contact someone?
We do need to contact them.
I mean-
That's why I need to talk to them.
Someone else. Give it to him.
As you pass the gem to Thaddeus, the door of the inn slams open with a loud bang. And standing in the doorway, looking very out of breath, is Eli. And he glances wildly about the room, sees that everyone's here, and says, "You need to come quickly."
Oh, it was werewolves!
What? No,
Take it.
come
Take
on.
it, Go.
And he dashes off
I'll follow.
in
And
the
off we
direction
go.
of the temple. And as he's running, he's sort of between heavy breaths. He explains, "There wasn't an attack last night, but there was something happened, and you need to come to the temple. You'll see." And as you get to the stone building that is the temple, and descend the steps into the main courtyard area, you can see that the beds that were being occupied by the patients that Thaddeus cured yesterday have all sort of been pushed to the side since they're not really used at the moment. And the Aramil, notably, is not present. He was meditating before the statue.
Where's
normally.
Ariel?
But you don't almost have time to notice that he's not there, because there is something that is much more striking in the center of this courtyard area. You see lying in the water, sort of splayed out, arms and legs wide, a body of an old man who you recognize after a moment. Like, you don't recognize at first because of what I'll explain in a second. But you recognize after a moment it to be the body of Phineas. And you can see that his eyes seem to have been completely gouged out or something like that, because there are snakes crawling from inside of his head, out of his eye and mouth holes. And then, seem to be just crawling out and like going down into the water and then swimming away. And they just seem to be coming out of his body endlessly. And Eli just sort of like hangs back at the back and he says, "We found this morning."
I'm very sorry, Phineas. I firebolt his head.
Oh, jeez!
Firebolt.
Okay.
His head, where the snakes are coming out.
There's an explosion of fire from his head area, and several of the snakes scurry out of it. But you can see that several of them are also left charred.
I like trying to stop them if they get close to the snakes.
And Eli is just kind of like averting his gaze, and he's like, I don't know if there's anything that can be done, but we found him this way this morning, and
You have to move his body.
Did you say he
right.
looks like an old man?
Well, he was an old man.
He was an old man before.
Oh,
He's
I
always
pictured him.
He's like eating all
Younger,
that.
okay. Yeah,
He just
he's
looked-
been getting older.
Has he been acting weird
No,
lately? We
No,
noticed he
not in
looked a lot
particular.
older.
not that I can think of, no.
Was anyone with him last night?
He was in his room all night, as much as I'm aware. He was working on his holy oil that he was tasked with. And he says, I'm gonna
Come
go.
on, Eli, and I'll take him upstairs.
I'm gonna move the body.
Okay, yeah, where do you want to move it to?
I feel like it would be a bad thing to dump in the water, but like there's nowhere to bury it in this weird town.
Yeah.
You're on your own. I'm taking Eli
And
upstairs.
they normally send out the deceased in this town, you remember?
Notably, also, Dawn is in the area, but she doesn't seem anywhere near as phased as Eli is.
Okay.
Thaddeus, if you're going to move the body, I can help.
Alright, thank you.
I'm not sure where would be a good place to take it.
I'm sure there has to be.
Let's take it just outside the village. How far is that?
Not far. 10 minutes walk.
You can always, never mind.
People are going to look, though. We should cover it up.
I agree.
So the eye sockets, you said they were gouged out.
Yeah.
Are snakes still
Is it-
pouring out of it?
Not now that Harmony has firebolted the head.
Okay.
That's
Um,
what the plan was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did it look like it was like from an animal or from like?
Do you want to take a little bit of time to investigate
Yeah, I
it before
do,
they carry the
actually.
body out?
Yeah.
All right. One of you two can roll a medicine check at advantage.
Go ahead. Roll again.
Okay. 14.
It almost looks as if It almost looks as if the holes were created from the inside, as if something chewed its way out.
Yeah, I'm taking Eli upstairs to Phineas's room, and I'm gonna be asking him like, have you noticed anything weird about him lately?
When you go into Phineas's room, there's
Is there anything in there?
there's one vial of holy water that is sort of laying on the floor, and you can see that his desk chair is also on the floor, as if it had been tipped over,
Right.
and his sheets are just kind of thrown all over the place in his like his bed is just completely unmade.
I go talk to
Eli,
Dawn.
help me. Maybe we can find something in here that explains all this.
I can't think of anything that explains it, but sometimes the undead that come have come to town have been accompanied once or twice by some lizard-like creatures. But nothing like this has happened before to any of
Did
them.
you get bit by something?
Not that I know of. He caught some of the sickness when the festering wounds created a sickness that was going around, but I don't think he ever.
Sure that sickness was from the festering wounds?
Well, as far as I know.
Did he keep like a journal or something?
Yeah, and Eli sort of rummages through the desk and pulls out a book that presumably would be his journal.
I take it and flip to like the last couple of pages.
Yeah, the last couple pages talk about the most recent days in Redwater. So he mentions how the skies started getting dark earlier and how occasionally he would see undead on the edge of the forest and things like that, and how Eli had grown so much and was doing his mother proud, that sort of thing. But there's no mention of anything super weird that triggers your
Spidey sense.
yeah, your supernatural senses or whatever. So there's a lot of basically each journal entry ends with like a prayer to Melora, but
I'm gonna hand it back.
it doesn't get increasingly crazier or anything like that. So.
Nice, let's go find Dawn. Maybe she
Wait,
knows
Dawn is
something.
already
She's with-
That
she's
is
with you.
our objective.
Oh, they're doing the body. Okay, Dawn. Okay.
So I think we would like just take it and like leave it by a tree or like in some bushes.
Sort of out of town.
Yeah, we don't really have time to dig a grave
Mhm.
on it, which sucks because he was his way better than that, but we have to go.
Eli, are you still gonna be able to come with us? Now that there's no one to look after the church?
That's a good question. Phineas mentioned that he was going to be taking care of that friend you brought.
Right. Coming home.
So if she's as skilled as Hunter seemed to think, I think I can probably still leave.
Okay. Well, maybe you can give Hunter some instructions that you can translate for her, so she knows what she's supposed to be doing.
Oh, yeah, sure. I can also. We don't have many acolytes or anything like that at our temple, but I can see if I can get one. A lot of the village people are really friendly, and I can see if I can get one of them to help her out.
If you think that that's okay. Of course, I think we need you, but I don't want to leave the temple unprotected either.
I don't want to be left behind again. I'm not sure how I would deal with being alone in that temple now after what I've seen. And he kind of like leans up against the wall and like
I like
almost
spring
like,
over a waist.
he like makes the motion like he's going to puke. He's like, nope, I'm fine.
A wild magic.
I just need to not thinking about it.
It's
I need to not think about it.
So would Aramel have had a room, or would he just been meditating 24/7?
Yeah, where
Yeah,
did
I
Aaron
think
go?
that's what Daddy's gonna ask Dawn as soon as the body says, where did Aaron go?
Well, he was the one who found the body. And then he came to find me, and I went to find Eli, and then Eli went to find you. I don't know where Arabelle went after that. But she sort of like glances up to the sky, and you can still see the like shimmers of Fey magic. So presumably wherever he is, he's meditating.
Oh, let's hope so. Otherwise, we really don't have time to lose. Let's get back.
I'm like, well, they probably cleaned up downstairs by now. You feeling okay? Shall we get back?
Yeah, sure. Yep, I'll be okay.
I like hand him a branch of sage. I'm like, here, this should help. Just
And he like
smell
looks at it, he like holds onto it.
Just smell it. Smells good, right?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Harmony. I'm not good at this sort of thing.
Well, there's going to be a lot of this sort of thing when we're gone.
Yeah, I'm ready to face it. I just
If you have to throw up, you don't need to be ashamed, like it happens to
okay. And you just
I like turn around.
yeah. There's a loud retching sound, but
I like prestidigitation him when he's done. Get him all clean.
yeah, he's very appreciative for that.
Alright, pat his back. Let's go.
That happened a lot to me on the ship here. Have some peppermint. It helps.
So he's got sage in one hand and he's just kind of chewing on something. Sure.
I don't know if the sage actually helps, but it's something I had that smells nice.
Yeah, and on that really gruesome, heavy note, the rest of you kind of converge and solemnly look to each other, realizing that you have to face some really monstrous creatures. And I think that's where we'll have to end for tonight, because we're getting close to the end of our time, and I don't...
Should we teleport now or teleport to next time?
Oh yeah, we can do the teleporting first if you want.
Find out if we
Yeah,
actually make it where we're going
let's
or
set
not.
let's set up how bad this is gonna be for us.
Okay, well, as we like get together to do the teleport, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna level with you guys. The last time I tried this spell, I was actually trying to teleport right into the temple.
It's okay, we're used to this sort of thing now.
Well, this is a little bit more dangerous, because I don't know how close we're actually gonna get to the target. And also, even if we do get teleported directly into the tower, it might be infested with Kenku. So be ready to fight.
Can't cure the least in our work at this point.
I mean, they have like hordes of ravens and they're pretty scary. And it's okay, we'll be fine.
And I cast teleport.
Okay. As you cast teleport, the magic exudes from you, and the now familiar rainbow swirling lights consume and engulf you as you're pulled upward by your navel. And as you're slammed back dizzyingly to the ground, you take a look around you. Harmony, as this spell is taking effect, you also feel a sort of a pulse of magic from your pouch. And you look down in the midst of all the swirling color to see the wand that you took from the tower sort of resonating with your spell. And when the swirling colors subside and the dizziness leaves your brains, you do find yourselves in the abandoned and disheveled study of the wizard Orin from before he left Ravenmoor. The scratched out teleportation circle still inscribed on the ground, and the display case that once held the wand of detect magic, which you've carried with you ever since early legs of your adventure, is still present. And as you all sort of land in this cramped room, pretty much there's no room for you to maneuver around each other. You're just packed in here. The display case speaks up
Can
and
we
says,
talk to him?
"Hey, where'd you come from?" And that's where we're going to end it.
Talk to the display case again.
The display case. MVP.
Yep. So that's where we'll end, and that's where we'll pick up.
Cool.
Yeah, so if you have an associated object that came from the location you're teleporting to, it's easier to teleport.
Nice. Good to know.
In fact, you have a 100% chance of being on target if you have that.
That's cool.
It's a good thing I took that wand.
It is. Your thievery pays off at last.
Hey, that means all these other places where I stole stuff from will be able to get back in
Yep.
There was a point to it all along.
I could teleport us right into the library because I have those shield clasps that I stole.
It never stops.
Helios Tower, I
It
mean.
never stops.
Well, there you go. That was tonight's show. We'll get back at it next week, Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. This video will be up on YouTube on Wednesday. The VOD will be up immediately after this. So if you came and enjoyed watching us, we hope you come back again. Yeah, that's it for tonight. So see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.